Do you tell your teens that they should study hard for their own good? If so, it's time to stop saying this immediately. Why? Because if you tell your teens to study hard for their own good, they'll be less likely to study hard. In this video, I'll give you 3 reasons why. I'll also share with you 3 tips to help your teenagers develop intrinsic motivation. The Bureau of Labor Statistics published this chart. It shows that students who perform well in school and get more educational credentials have a higher salary on average. And students who study hard are obviously more likely to perform well in school. But if you want to motivate your teens, you shouldn't tell them to study hard for their own benefit. Here's the first reason why. Most teens aren't hungry for a better life. When I say this, I'm referring to teenagers who live in developed countries where most teenagers have more material things than they need. More shoes than they need, more clothes than they need, and more electronic devices than they need. In contrast, 1 or 2 generations ago, most people experienced real hardship. For example, my parents and grandparents grew up with far less, materially speaking, than I did. From an early age, it was obvious to my parents that if they wanted to have a more comfortable life in the future, they needed to work hard in school. Their teachers and parents told them that education was the key to success, and in that day and age, it was true. Today, many teens already lead lives of comfort, or even lives of luxury. Most of them subconsciously assume that their lives will continue to be comfortable regardless of how hard they try in school. I've even worked with unmotivated teenagers from wealthy families who said to me, "I've already calculated the value of my inheritance. I won't need to work a day in my life." Because many teenagers have grown up with so much, they don't feel the need to work hard so they can own even more nice things. They already own plenty of nice things. This means that the desire to achieve more doesn't motivate them to study hard in the same way it motivated people 1 or 2 generations ago. This is why it isn't effective to tell your teens to study hard so they can have a better life in the future. I'm Daniel Wong, and I specialize in helping teens to thrive. Let's talk about the second reason you shouldn't tell your teens to study hard for their own good. Teens want to feel as if their lives are significant, but studying doesn't help them feel this way. I've been working with teenagers around the world for over a decade. I've come to realize that all teenagers want to feel as if they're contributing. When they feel like they're contributing, they also feel as if their lives are significant. This enables them to be more motivated and purpose-driven. What does this have to do with studying hard? Plenty. The direct message most students receive in school is that they should study hard to get good grades, so they'll be able to get a good job, so they'll be able to enjoy a comfortable life. The indirect message most students receive is that they won't make a real contribution until after they've completed their formal education. What's more, schools tend to emphasize achievement, both in academics and other activities. But what teens crave is a sense that they're contributing, that their lives are useful to others. Teens say to me, "If I study hard, I get A's. If I don't study hard, I fail." Either way, nothing about the world really changes. This statement bears more truth than parents and educators would like to admit. It highlights the fact that teenagers want to make an impact. When they don't have this sense of significance, they turn to online entertainment like social media and games. Through these platforms, they can build a following, get likes, gain admiration for their looks and abilities, and level up their characters. Teens get a real sense of significance and achievement in the online world, which they might not be getting in the real world. Social media and games are entertaining, but they also serve to help young people meet their real needs in a virtual way. This is a big reason why millions of teenagers around the world are so addicted to social media and games. Now let's move on to the third reason you shouldn't tell your teens to study hard for their own good. The rewards of studying hard are too far in the future. Like we talked about earlier, schools tell students the story that they should study hard so they can get more educational credentials. Then they can get a job that pays them well. But this story doesn't inspire teens. For many teens, they're only going to complete their formal education in another 5 or 10 years, maybe even longer than that. If you ask teenagers to wait just 1 year to get a new phone or computer or pet, that already seems like an eternity to them. But we're expecting teens to work hard in school for the next 5 or 10 years or longer because of the reward they'll get at that point in the distant future. That's not gonna happen, especially when teenagers today are growing up in an age of instant gratification. Even the least motivated teens I've worked with understand that it's for their own good that they study hard. But the benefits they'll reap are too far down the road to keep them motivated now. If you're finding this video helpful so far, please click the like button. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss out on future videos about helping teens to thrive. Now that we've talked about the 3 reasons why you shouldn't tell your teens to study hard for their own good, it's now time to talk about the 3 alternative approaches that work. Here's the first tip to help your teens develop intrinsic motivation. Focus more on contribution and less on achievement. One important purpose of education is to equip students with the knowledge and skills so they can make a contribution. Andrew Foligny and many other researchers have found that contribution is the foundation of a meaningful life and of intrinsic motivation. This is true for teenagers too. So it's unfortunate that most teenagers don't think too much about how they can contribute. Instead, they spend a lot more time thinking about what they want to or are supposed to achieve. This often leaves them feeling unmotivated and uninspired. What's the alternative? Emphasize contribution above achievement. Try to do this in the way you speak to your teens about what goes on in their lives. Help them to see that there are always ways in which they can help and serve others. Take practical steps to communicate this message too. For example, as a family, you could get involved in a regular volunteering activity like helping out at a soup kitchen, tutoring younger children, or doing charity work. I've observed that teens who engage in such activities voluntarily at least once or twice a month become more aware of their responsibilities toward others. This helps them to adopt a more positive mindset when it comes to fulfilling their responsibilities as a student. There's no point forcing your teens to volunteer if they refuse to, but you can always start by setting a good example for them. Even at home, there are many ways for your teens to contribute. For example, they can help out with chores, cook a simple meal for the family once a week, plan family celebrations, or suggest the itinerary for an upcoming family vacation. If teens lead balanced lives that are focused on others, their motivation to acquire knowledge for the benefit of others will increase as well. Tip number 2, focus more on the process and less on the outcome. Instead of asking your teens what grades they're getting, turn your attention toward the process by asking questions like, what did you try hard at? What did you fail at? What challenges did you face? What will you do differently next time? Share with your teens the challenges you face and what you're doing to overcome those challenges. This approach will remind your teens that the process is what matters most, not the outcome. Emphasize to them that grades are just a form of feedback and that grades are never an end in themselves. Tip number 3, create a culture of learning at home. Your teens are watching you, so if you lead by example, they'll be more likely to develop a positive learning attitude. Periodically share with your teens what books you've been reading, what courses you've been taking, what fears you've been overcoming, what skills you've been learning, what character traits you've been developing. My parents did this consistently when I was growing up, and it had a huge impact on my attitude toward lifelong learning. If you do this in a non-preachy way in your family, your teenagers will internalize the message that learning is meaningful and fun. More importantly, they'll start to understand that getting better is its own reward. When they believe this for themselves, they'll study hard because they'll enjoy the process of learning and improving. Take a moment to think about the long-term goals you have for your teens. These goals are probably related to your teens becoming kind, courageous, resilient, and trustworthy. You probably also want your teens to love learning, to find fulfillment in life, to serve others, to build meaningful relationships, and to lead lives of purpose. I'm a father of 3 children myself, so I know how easy it can be to lose sight of these long-term goals. It's so easy to focus on what's urgent instead of what's important. That's why it's natural for parents to want their children to perform well in school. But I encourage you to aim higher than just getting your teens to study hard. Instead, focus on guiding them toward the path of becoming people of character, contribution, and commitment. And always remember to prioritize the meaningful over the measurable, because that's the approach that will lead to your teens' enduring success. If you'd like practical tips to motivate your teens, check out this free ebook I've written entitled 16 Keys to Motivating Your Teenager. Visit daniel-wong.com/ebook to download the ebook today. Make sure to put all the letters in lowercase. I've also included the download link in the description below. And here's this other video I've created about the 15 things great parents do to bring out the best in their teens. I'm sure you'll find this video useful, so watch it next.